Speaking of what's going on with her, this is our title for today. Reproduction, not in reference to babies, in a sense, but we're going to continue talking about being a disciple and multiplying yourself with other folks. Jesus said, "Follow me," which means, and we're going to look at that today, copying Jesus Christ in our life and His mission of having folks follow Him. We're going to follow Him, and therefore we are going to be sharing the gospel for others to make the decision of following Him. So this morning we're going to look at the topic. Last week was the first part, talking about self-death, and today we're going to be talking about reproduction, that of copying Jesus in our lives and encouraging others to follow Him. We're going to look at this in the beginning with the kids' game, Simon Says. Courtney, come up here, please. Elena, come up here, please. Katrina, come up here, please. Jacob, come up here, please. You okay? Okay. We're going to play the game Simon Says, and they're going to copy what I tell them to do. Okay? Simon says to raise your hands. Simon says to put them down. Simon says to raise one arm, raise the other, you're out. Because I did say Simon says. Okay? Simon says, raise your other arm. Simon says to jump up and down. Okay, we're done. Oh, now you're both out. I didn't say Simon says.
They all failed.
Well, we could say they all failed, but Jacob just gave up. See, I was hoping somebody would give up. Because many folks in church give up sharing the gospel, give up making other disciples, give up being a disciple themselves. Oh, if I'd have remembered you were back there, you'd have been up here too. I forgot you were back there. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
We'll,
okay.
we'll do something special later on for you.
Oh.
But you see, we have different responses. And I know this is going to be hard to see, but Christ's command is to follow me. And our response is either to obey or to disobey. And we can see on the bottom, if we disobey, if we don't follow Him, if we don't accept Him into our heart, then death, meaning separation from Christ, will happen. But if we are obedient to God and His call, Then we go through a time of discipleship, a time of learning, a time of changing our lives, and then, last week we talked about self-death. Today we're going to talk about reproduction. That of leading other people into copying, number one, who Christ is, but number two, copying your example for them. A basic question would be then, is your life worth copying for them? Let's look at John chapter 15, verse 8. John chapter 15, verse 8. John chapter 15, verse 8. It says, "By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, and so prove to be my disciple." Number one, God is glorified when we bear much fruit. And not only that, we're proving that we are His disciples. To bear much fruit. It means to reproduce, or karpos in Greek. It means it's coming from something, an effect or result of work, or an act, or a deed. Now, sharing the gospel is not an easy thing to do. Sharing the gospel is a command. Matthew says to go, making disciples. Meaning go, share the gospel. Tell other people about Jesus Christ. To multiply, to share the gospel. Now again, there's many in the church, and I'm going to use Jacob again as an example. There's many in the church who just sit back. Oh, that's the pastor's responsibility. He's the one that's been called to do that. Oh, that's a deacon's responsibility. No. When it said to go and to make disciples, it didn't say go pastors. It didn't say go deacons. It just says go, meaning all of us. When is the last time you led someone to the Lord? When is the last time you brought a friend or a neighbor to church and they accepted Christ? When is the last time that you were involved in growth in the kingdom of God? For some, it's been a very, 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 very long time. For others, it's been a relatively short time. Reproduce. John 15:2, just a few verses beforehand. It's talking about every branch in him that does not bear much fruit, he takes away. And every branch that does not bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. Now this is a confusing verse. Number one, the word iro, it means to remove, to take up, giving the concept of taking a plant by the roots and pulling it up and getting rid of it. Now that's one meaning of the word, but let me ask you, walking, if I were a gardener and I planted fruits and vegetables in the springtime, expecting to harvest later on that year, let's say I planted tomatoes. Now, a tomato grows on a vine. Do we have anyone experienced growing tomatoes? Okay. I know Jesse has. Tracy kind of a little bit. Okay. When you plant tomatoes and it starts to grow, it grows as a vine does on the ground. What's the first thing you do? You lift it up. Some would say you put a bird cage around it so the vines can grow up around it. And then, why do you do that? So the sun can get to all of the branches, the vine. And then when the tomatoes start to pop out, the sun can get to them to help them to ripen. Now, I don't know of any gardener that would plant a tomato and as soon as it starts growing and kind of crawling, what happens with the vine on the ground normally? It dies. It doesn't produce many tomatoes. Maybe one or two, but when they're on the ground, don't they have a tendency to rot? So a good gardener will lift it up so the sun can get to the whole thing. See, that's another meaning of the word iro. Is to lift up, as in a tomato plant. To lift it up so it can get more sun. It's not an automatic thing to cut it off and throw it away. You see, in our lives, Christ wants to lift us up so that we can grow more fruit. Christ wants to lift us up so that we can be a better disciple. Christ wants to lift us up by His hands, His love, and His mercy. He's not so quick to cutting us off and throwing us away. Some of the commentators are looking forward to verse 6 where it talks about trimming off and burning the dead branch. We are here to bear much fruit, to lead people to the Lord. Can we all improve? Yes. Is Christ there lifting us up so that we can get the full effect of the sun and everything in our lives that we need? Yes. Doesn't matter in high school. Doesn't matter in middle school. Doesn't matter where you're at work, or if you're home, or your friends, or your neighbors. We are called to produce much fruit. That's the goal. Is to copy Jesus in our lives so that people, when they look at us, they're going to want to copy Jesus in their lives. They're going to want to reproduce. The problem in the church today, and probably for the last 20 years, there have been no disciples, no true disciples, producing fruit. There have been very few. Churches have shrunk in the last 20 years because there's no growth. There's no fruit that's being produced. People are more comfortable in just sitting down, doing nothing, listening to the preacher and going home, or not listening to the preacher, playing on their cell phone, their iPad, whatever. I'm not saying anything. Okay? She says, I'm taking notes. I'm typing a note. The goal is for you and I, as disciples, to produce fruit, to bring people to the Lord, so they in turn can bring more people to. There was a statistic that I read this week for between an evangelist and a disciple. How many people being saved? It started out with the evangelist in a year leading 365 people to the Lord. Basically, one person every day. Disciple started off with one, then multiplied or added itself to 2, to 4, to 8. Now, this is per year. The evangelist, I think at the end of 20 years, all the work and everything that's gone on, all together is less than 5,000 people in 20 years. But the disciple, as he led one to the Lord, then you have 2 leading people to the Lord, giving 4. Then 4 people leading someone to the Lord gave 8, and on. And at the end of 20 years, how many do you think they were able to lead to the Lord altogether? Almost 2 million people. You say, well, that'll never happen. Well, that's true if the church remains the same. If nobody gets busy, nobody cares about other people, if everything remains the same, you're right. It'll never happen. In fact, the church will continue to dwindle down, dwindle down, dwindle down, dwindle down, as a lot of churches today are closing their doors because there's no growth. In fact, there's a statistic of how many pastors quit every month in the church. And I want to say it's around 150 a month. 150 pastors stopping their work, quitting, burnout, whatever the reason. That's a horrible statistic to have in God's church. The question is, are you producing fruit? Again, the question, when is the last time you led someone to the Lord? For some, it may have been a very long time. Guess what? The encouragement is to get busy. For some of you, maybe it's been a short time that you've been involved in leading someone to the Lord. Guess what the encouragement is? To continue to be busy making disciples. For some, you could say, I've never led someone to the Lord. It's time to start. Because see, the Lord is giving encouragement. He's lifting you up, waiting for you to get busy for Him, to lead someone to the Lord. I don't care where the church is, it's not going to survive if we do not produce fruit. And by we, I mean you and I. All of us. It's not going to happen. The church is not going to grow. But more importantly, the kingdom of God is not going to grow. More importantly, if we do not get involved in leading people to the Lord, that's more people that's going to be going to hell when they die. Or if the Lord should come for the church while we're alive, that's less people going to heaven, more people going to hell. Which would you rather be involved with? Leading people to the Lord, or a lackadaisical attitude? A lackadaisical motivation. A lackadaisical idea, well, someone else is going to do it. But I'm telling you right now, let's say, for example, Tracy, she has that attitude. Someone else can do it. Okay? I'm just saying, for example, she's saying someone else can do it. And let's say Linda, that's who she's thinking of. Well, Linda, she can do it. But Linda says someone else can do it. And she's thinking about Lisa. And Lisa's thinking, well, you know, someone else can do it. She's thinking of Nora. And Nora says, well, surely someone else can do it. She's thinking of Carrie. And Carrie's thinking, well, someone else can do it. She's thinking of Gloria. Gloria's attitude is, well, that's why we have a pastor. He can do it. And you know what I'm thinking? It's all of our responsibility. It's not easy work. But you know, the Lord is already there. Doesn't the Bible say the field is white, ready for the harvest? But the laborers are few. Remember, we started with Tracy. If Tracy were to say, oh, I'll be happy to do it, and next month she leads one person to the Lord, I will guarantee you she will come to church that Sunday jumping up and down. She will come to church with a different attitude. She'll come to church motivated. She'll come to church bragging that she led someone to the Lord. Now, she was thinking Linda before, but now Linda, she gets busy. And next month, she leads one person to the Lord. And Linda is also excited. She's going to look at Tracy and says, I told you so. Linda is going to be excited and motivated, jumping up and down, bragging. And Lisa, she leads one person to the Lord next month. Same reaction. She's going to be jumping up and down, motivated, excited, and she's going to turn to Linda and say, I told you so. And then she's going to look at Gloria, or no,
Carrie.
Carrie.
Nora and then Carrie, yeah.
But understanding it's all of our responsibilities. The Lord has already promised He's lifting us up so that we can bear much fruit. Who is stopping the process? Who is saying, not me, they can? And they're saying, oh, not me, they can. And they're saying, oh, not me, they can. I don't care how big your church is, we could be running 5,000 and still it's our responsibility to grow. We could fill out this sanctuary once, twice, 3 times, but you'll never find in the Bible it says, okay, enough, done. You've finished your responsibility. You'll not find that. It doesn't say, oh, small churches under, today I think we have 22 here. Oh, churches under 25, you need to get busy. Come on! It doesn't say that. But what it does say, for all disciples, all Christians, it says, come on! What's the holdup? What are you waiting for? And the Bible also promises in the verse that we read, it says, if you bear fruit, the Lord's going to prune you. He's going to change you. He's going to mold you into what He wants you to become so that you can bear more fruit. Now, some would say, we'll let the young people do it. There's no discrimination of age in the Bible. Elena, how old are you? 6. I'm sorry? 7. Did you forget? You're 7. Okay. She's 7. She's already accepted Christ. She's already been baptized. She is in His hands. is she going to get busy for the Lord? Who is she looking at to copy? Are we showing her the right way as a church? Because she's looking up to Lisa. She's looking up to Gloria. She's looking up to me. She's looking up to each of us adults. To Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa, Great-Grandpa. All of them. What kind of an example does she have to follow? It'd be awesome if we were to get busy and every week somebody new is brought to church. Every month 2 or 3 people are saved. It would be awesome. But it's not going to happen automatically. When Katrina brought the music, we hooked it up and she said, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to whatever. So we worked it out and moved it over to the main screen. And then when I brought up PowerPoint, she was lost. Had to move it over and expand it so that we could see it up here. And then we changed the setting to where it was automatic. All you had to do was push the down button and it would start up on its own. There are sometimes I wish that we had an automatic setting where all we had to do was push a button and boom, y'all got busy. But we don't have that button. The Lord is lifting you up and you have a decision to make. Are you going to follow Him in all aspects of your life? To include leading people to the Lord? Or are we going to sit back in the pew and whistle? Yeah, I heard you, Katrina. She's sitting back there going, we're more focused on a variable amount of things. There's times it's hard for me to go to sleep at night because my brain is just going and going and going. And I'm sure it's the same with you guys. But what is it going and going and going on? Things that are happening at home. Things that are happening with family. Emergencies. We don't live a protected life. Jesus didn't say, when life calms down, that's when you need to get busy. No. When life gets busy, that is when we need to get busy. We're going to have an invitation here in a moment. The challenge today is, are you ready to bear fruit? Are you ready to lead someone to the Lord? Oh, I know the excuse. Oh, I didn't explain what that meant? Poor excuse. I created a new sign. Poor excuse. I don't know how. Yes, you do. You're just like Linda this morning, chickening out. to have a deacon. His name was Lenny in Ohio. Deaf deacon, wonderful man. Now he's preaching. He used to have a concept. It's time to roll up your sleeves to get busy for the Lord. Well, rolling up your sleeves is fine. I can roll up my sleeves and go home and be just fine and do nothing. See, I don't care if your sleeves are rolled up or if they're left down. It's time to get busy either way. That's the challenge. Are you ready to be used by the Lord when He's lifting you up to bear much fruit, to reproduce? You've already been saved, most of you. Now it's time to share that with somebody else. That's the challenge. Now, not everyone you share with is going to be saved. You can talk to certain people till, well, we say, till you're blue in the face. Which means talk, blah, 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 and nothing's going to happen. But there's others, and I'm here to stand to give testimony. The Lord works before you get to their house. I've had several opportunities to lead people to the Lord where God has already been there and prepared